Good morning and welcome back to the channel. And if you're new here, my name's Martin, and I like to think this channel is sort of my documentation of the adventures that I get up to now that I've retired. You join me this morning. It's February. It's quite bright. Hasn't been, but it's quite bright now. I'm moored up near a little village called Nether Hayford in Northamptonshire, and this morning I'm going to cycle into Weedon, which is a couple of miles away, and primarily to have a look at a place called what was called the Royal Ordnance Depot, or locally as the Depot. Don't know very much about it, but it's intriguing, and as you can see, also need a haircut. So that's what I should be doing. Need to get a loaf as well. So why don't you join me? In the early 1800s, the British Army needed a safe place to store muskets, cannon and gunpowder as far away from the coast as possible. The tiny village of Weedon Beck in Northamptonshire, at the centre of England and on Watling Street, a newly established canal network was chosen. The work began on the Royal Ordnance Depot in 1804, with 8 storehouses, a canal extension, powder magazines and high walls completed 10 years later. Later, the site was expanded to 120 acres, with barracks, parade grounds, a railway, workshops, stabling for hundreds of horses, a hospital, a prison and a polo field. For 150 years, the depot stored and supplied everything soldiers needed to fight around the world. Bullets, boots, blankets, for every conflict, from the age of muskets to the atomic age. Millions of items of equipment went through Weedon's gates. Hundreds of local people worked here alongside the soldiers, and generations of men and women were sworn to secrecy about its role. The depot was not just a place of work, it was the heart of the community. It closed in 1965 and Weedon's place in history was forgotten. The site went into private ownership shortly after it closed, and being Grade 2 listed, the original 1814 buildings and canal, plus many of the other features, can now be seen. They've been preserved. The depot is now home to a growing community of workshops, crafts, leisure and retail businesses, recreating the hustle and bustle of its heyday. It's so good to see these buildings put to good use. Often in these situations, the buildings are left to decay and become derelict. As you enter the site, the building on the left-hand side with the archway and the portcullis, which once formed the canal entrance to the site, now houses a small visitor centre. The visitor centre is only open periodically, so it's worth checking online to see when the opening hours are. But it does contain some wonderful examples and information about the history of the site, and there are some really informative people on duty there to help you along if you need a little bit more input. Now, as I mentioned, Weedon Beck also had stabling for a good number of horses, and indeed Weedon Beck was the British Army's centre for equitation. Now, when I was doing a little bit of research and read equitation online, I thought it was a misspelling. I thought it was meant to say equestrian. But then the word cropped up again. So I googled what equitation actually means, and it is actually the training of horsemanship rather than training the horse, which is equestrian. The story goes that Queen Elizabeth II learnt a lot of her horsepersonship at Wiedenbeck. One interesting fact is that cavalry personnel, cavalry soldiers, were trained to remove their jackets whilst jumping over fences. I'm not quite sure what that does and how that helps, but there you go. The buttons and the various uniforms that you've seen in these clips all represent the fact that Wiedenbeck was also the British Army's store of military clothing. All the uniforms were stored here. There are also several exhibits of rusty weaponry. These Sten guns, for instance, were part of a consignment of 6 packing cases that were fished out of the canal. As I mentioned, the canal used to enter the site through the archway where the portcullis is. To get there, the boats would have travelled along 200 or 300 metres from the existing canal along a route which sadly no longer exists and is now a housing estate. But partway along that route, the canal would have been intersected by the railway. But because the canal was on King's business, i.e. travelling to the Royal Ordnance Depot, the railway had to move aside. Sadly, that wonderful mechanism no longer exists, but the models in the visitor centre show how it would have worked. So that then was the Royal Ordnance Depot at Weedon. Quite an interesting place, but most of all it's great to see these old historic buildings being put to good use rather than demolished or just left to decay. By the way, what do you think to the Barnet? Much better, isn't it? So then, if you found these latest shenanigans slightly entertaining, then please subscribe to the channel if you aren't already. If you want to know what I get up to next, then press the notification button, ring the bell, and if you thought it was enjoyable, give us a thumbs up. Okay, till next time, see ya!